Hey guys, so thank you for hanging in there this week with Ms. Brenda. Appreciate it a lot. We're going to read the last installment of The Other Half of My Heart right now. And we left it at quite a cliffhanger last time. Tomorrow, we're starting a new book. Theodore Boone, Kid Lawyer. It's a John Grisham thriller. John Grisham books are not appropriate for children, except this one. He wrote it for kids your age. He wrote it for 11, 12. So, your age. But it's really well done, and you will enjoy it a lot. But I'll talk about that tomorrow. And yes, you don't have a copy of that, but you have a copy of this one. Daddy Blue Kit, chapter 32, page 276. Daddy Blue kisses. Gigi snapped pictures. Mama beamed at Kira, and Mama beamed at Minnie. She gave Minnie a big thumbs up. Grandmother Johnson had apparently forgotten about decorum. She cheered wildly, bouncing up and down. Hopefully, she'd also forgotten about the earlier broadcasting of her heavy breathing habit. When all the official photo taking was over, Miss Jackie signaled to the girls that they were free to leave their places and mingle with each other and family members waiting to greet them. Alicia fled from the stage, wailing. She didn't take losing too well, did she? Well, she didn't lose. She got second place. Wasn't good enough for her, though. Donielle grabbed Minnie before she could reach Kira, who was surrounded by 100 people anyway. It would be a while before Minnie would be able to see her sister to herself again. Congratulations on your award, Donielle said. You too, you totally deserved it. She got Miss Congeniality. Thanks. You want to trade emails? Donielle held out a piece of paper, her address already written on it. I love Barbies 157 at chatter.com. Remember her about the Barbies. She wasn't the bad Barbie story. She was the good Barbie story. Sure, said Minnie, grinning. And she ripped the paper in half and wrote down her address and handed it back to Donielle. And they hugged tight. It was so fun to meet you, said Donielle. You two don't forget to write. I won't, said Minnie. I'm going to send you pictures of my Barbie collection. Okay, I'll send you a picture of me and Bessie Coleman. That's her bird, remember? Great. And they headed off to exchange addresses with other people. Minnie scanned the judges' area looking for Miss Verna, but the judges were all gone. She headed for the stairs at the end of the stage and made her way to her family. She sank into Mama's embrace, breathing in her lovely feel and smell. She was at home again. Aww. It turned out Daddy had flown Mama and Gigi out in one of his friend's charter planes in exchange for a favor. They decided to keep it a surprise and actually called that morning from Raleigh. Grandmother Johnson had known all about it. You can't fly a Piper Cub, by the way, from Washington State to North Carolina. I mean, you can, but you're going to make many rest stops, and it's going to be a long trip. So he had to have chartered some much bigger plane. But they make small jets, private jets. I'm an excellent secret keeper, said Grandmother Johnson. She said with a grin when the truth came out. They stood around Kira in the emptying ballroom, admiring her gargantuan trophy, the bouquet of stargazer lilies, and the big check. Minnie and Kira retrieved their things from the dressing room. Alicia was nowhere to be seen. She received a final word of congratulations from Dr. Hoggraff and then joined her family in the lobby. They begged to go with Mom and Daddy in the rental car. I'll keep you company, Minerva, Gigi said. Her dangled earrings and dental strip whitened teeth sparkled in the lobby's light. How is it that in all these years we've never had any one-to-one time? She tweaked Grandmother Johnson's arm. Grandmother Johnson looked at her sharply, but Gigi didn't even seem to notice. On our way, you can point out the places we can go for a hot night out on the town. I wouldn't mind meeting myself a good old-fashioned Southern gentleman while I'm here. Daddy rolled his eyes and he put his arms around Minnie and Kira. They all went out into the warm evening air. Back at Grandmother Johnson's, another surprise awaited. Ruff, 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 ruff. Banjo! Minnie ran to Gigi's dog and knelt. Banjo put his paws on her shoulder and licked her face. She untied the dog's leash from the railing along the back steps and scooped him up. Gigi came along next. I can't believe she let you leave him in her yard. She looked around the grass for any dog dirty deeds. After practically making me sign a contract, Gigi muttered. Then she raised the pitch of her voice to sound like Grandmother Johnson. To remove any and ill effects from the messes of these premises. Grandmother Johnson clip-clopped down the walkway of the garage. She raised the eyebrow at the sight of Banjo, but did not comment. Finally, Mama, Daddy, and Kira came. Kira still wore the crown and sash. She talked a mile a minute. I can't believe it. I won. I actually won. Can you believe it? Absolutely, Daddy said, squeezing his shoulders. Seeing Banjo's food and water dishes in the grass, Minnie thought of her parakeet. Who's taking care of Bessie? Mrs. Anderson is going to check on her. Mrs. Anderson was their neighbor in Port Townsend. And she'll be home by tomorrow night. Home. She loved the sound of that word. Although she wondered what it'd be like to be there again now that she understood what it was like for Kira. Now that she knew it wasn't always so easy for her. Mama, Kira, and Gigi went inside. Daddy came over and put his arm around her. I am so proud of you, and Bessie will be able to tell you the same. We worked hard on that while you were gone. Minnie nuzzled Banjo's scruffy face. She tucked him under her arm and followed Daddy inside. What is that doing in here? Grandma Johnson said, eyeing the dog. He's a wonderful indoor dog. He's completely potty trained, Gigi said. He's a lap dog, really. I'll hold on to him, Minnie. I promise, Grandma. Grandmother Johnson's eyebrows pinched together. Everyone sat at the table, Grandmother Johnson at one end and Mom at the other. Kira and Daddy sat across from Mama, Minnie, and Gigi. Minnie couldn't believe it was possible for her to feel this way about something Grandmother Johnson had cooked, but she was pretty sure that banana pudding with vanilla wafers was one of the best things she's ever tasted. She finished hers quickly and then held the dish under the table so Banjo could lick it clean. The ferns, that's a famous dish, though, by the way. Banana pudding with vanilla wafers in it. The ferns in the window seat caught her eye. They looked much healthier when they arrived. Maybe the buttermilk was good for something, after all. They talked and talked about the pageant, and Kira and Minnie, filling the others with behind-the-scenes stories and drama. Gigi and Grandmother Johnson wanted to know every detail. Grandmother Johnson didn't forget that Banjo was there. Minnie was dying to tell him what a terrible person Alicia was, how she tripped Kira, and the mean things she'd said. But Kira never uttered a negative word about her, so Minnie didn't either. Grandmother Johnson sighed, I'm just so proud of you. She squeezed Kira's hand. Thank you. She slipped her hand from under their grandmother's and put her in her lap. Something bothered Minnie about Grandmother Johnson's praise, and it wasn't jealousy. It wasn't the fact that she hadn't seemed so proud before she won this Black Pearl Preaching of America. You both were something else, Daddy said. You sang beautifully, Minnie, Mama said. Exquisite, Gigi agreed. Minnie looked at Kira. This was when Grandmother Johnson would finally ask about what had happened to her piano accompaniment. Gigi's scoured dish thundered on the table. She wiped her mouth with a napkin. Minerva, that was the best darn banana pudding I'd ever passed my lips. If I cooked, I would ask for the recipe, but I don't cook. But as I say, why slave over a hot stove when there's country kitchen buffet just 10 minutes away? Grandmother Johnson's prune lips twitched. I appreciate the compliment, Gretchen. That's Gigi's full name, Gretchen. Uh-oh, here it comes. I told you could sing, but what on God's green earth was that horrible racket on my tape? Minnie looked to Kira for help. How did those people botch up my recording? They only had it in their possession for a short time, for heaven's sake. Kira's eyes popped wide open. Minnie choked back a laugh and accidentally sucked some saliva into her windpipe. Grandma Johnson really didn't know? Minnie coughed so much she had to hand Banjo to Gigi and excuse herself. She hid in the bathroom with a pink towel pressed against her face until the coughing and laughter was gone. She wiped her watering eyes with the towel. How could their grandmother not know the source of the tape's sound? Was she that blind to herself? When Minnie returned, Grandmother Johnson was going on about Alicia's grandmother. That Ernestine Russell thinks she's so high and mighty. She and all her progeny. She's always putting on airs, bragging about her talented and beautiful granddaughter. We shut her up good, though, tonight, didn't we? She smiled at Kira. I have to say, child, you really surprised me with your superior performance. You were so articulate, vivacious, well put together, stunning. You came across so intelligently, Kira. What? Surprised? You hadn't thought Kira was capable of it? That's because she is intelligent, Mother, Mama said, not sounding very pleased. Kira's mouth scrunched to one side. She didn't seem too happy about Grandma Johnson's affirmations either. Minnie's fingers throbbed and she looked down. She hadn't realized she was squeezing her hands together. Grandmother Johnson was proud of how Kira that had made look good in front of Ernestine Russell and others. But what about that fit she had about her grades, or when she thought Kira's hair wasn't good enough, or when she thought she had been told not to get any darker? Was she proud in those moments? The need to speak pressed against Minnie's voice box. Speak up, Minnie, now or never. Tell her she's wrong. She had sung before hundreds of strangers. She had promised us that whatever happened, she was going to be with her. She swallowed quietly. Have you always been so proud of Kira? She asked. She lifted her chin and raised her voice. Or is it only now because she won? The room fell silent. Chapter 33. What? Grandmother Johnson's stare bore down her. How could you? Mom interrupted. Perhaps you should consider your response before going any further, Mother. Frankly, I'm interested to hear what you have to say. She turned to Minnie. Why do you ask, daughter? Well, because sometimes it doesn't seem like you are proud of Kira. Just the way she is. Grandmother Johnson's face turned hard. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course I'm proud of her. I'm proud of both of you. Daddy's arm rested on the back of Kira's chair. Minnie wanted to run around the table into a safe embrace, but there's no hiding now. Daddy nodded a little, just enough to embolden her. Then why do you think my hair is perfectly good while Kira's needs to be straightened to be pretty? Mama cleared her throat. Ooh. And why did you say Kira didn't need to get any darker? What's wrong with her having dark skin? Mama drew in a sharp breath. I swear, Mother. Daddy put a hand on Mama's arms. Kira's lips stretched into a satisfied, closed-mouthed smile. Grandmother Johnson sat straight, gripping armrests. There's nothing wrong. It's just, there's certain realities. It's hard to explain. Try, said Mama. They're too young. Not too young to have noticed. The grandmother looked defenseless. She looked even a little scared. Grandmother Johnson, said Minnie, your skin is just as darker. Grandmother Johnson cut Minnie a look that stopped her from saying any more. Gigi's chair creaked. Grandmother Johnson fitted with a cloth napkin rubbing between her fingers, and it took a long time to speak. The silent tension was unbearable. Her cheeks and her shoulders sagged, and she took a deep breath. I will never forget, she started to speak, the first time I came to Raleigh with my grandmother. I was 7, and I'd only been living with her for a few weeks. Uncle Booker took ill, and for some reason or other, no one was available to watch me. So grandmother brought me along to old man Buchanan's. When we transferred to the city bus in Raleigh, the driver was cordial and polite. He even addressed my grandma as Mrs. Harris. It stood out to me because white people never called black people Mrs. or Mr. And then he saw me, hiding behind her dress folds, clinging to her skirt, and the expression on his face was clear as day. All the time she had ridden on the bus on her way to work, he had thought my grandmother was white. The white people on the bus stared as we walked by, heading towards the back. They glared at my grandmother as if she had murdered somebody, and I realized she had sat next to some of these people. They had likely rubbed shoulders, and now, because of me and my dark skin, she had been exposed. There'd be no more sitting in the front of the bus or on the ground floor of the theater or walking through the front doors or drinking from the fountains in the cold, clean water. Kira watched their grandmother closely. Her eyes had a mixture of curiosity and compassion. Chills ran down Minnie's arm. To have all these people staring at you like that. To have them think you were dirty, undeserving, or less than. Had the wrong in the world gotten inside Grandmother Johnson and caused her to think these people were right, Minnie thought? For the first time she could remember, Minnie felt truly sorry for her grandmother. Isn't it possible that your grandmother wanted these people to know she was black? Most certainly. As I told you before, she was a black woman all her life and proud of it. But she admitted to me when I was older that she periodically used her looks to enjoy some of the privileges. She felt like she was always putting one over on people, subverting the system, so to speak, in her own private way. Her employer knew, though, she was black all along. She assured me she didn't mind one bit relinquishing those occasional comforts, but still it was hard to accept the reality your skin color could determine your material well-being and how others treated you. You don't know. You know I don't believe in playing the victim, but people still make those judgments to this day, Kira. Life is harder than for dark-skinned women. We need to work harder to prove them wrong. Minnie wanted to protest. Things were totally different from when Grandmother Johnson was a girl. America had elected a black president, even. Yet Kira had said herself that she felt her skin color affected how the teachers perceived her. And of course, the dress shop. Minnie could never forget that. She could not be silent any longer, though. She had come this far, she might as well go all the way. Wouldn't it be better to try to change people's views instead of trying to change Kira, Grandma? These views have been in place for hundreds of years. They're not going to change in your lifetime. Kira is not too dark, but there's no reason for her to get any darker. That was all I meant. And all I've said or done, I was only looking out for your best interest. Well, I think brown skin is beautiful, Minnie said, no matter how dark. Me too, said Daddy. Me 3, said Gigi. Make that 4, said Mama. Banjo barked, agreeing with them all. Grandmother Johnson pressed her lips together and rose and began to clear the table when she walked into the kitchen. Kira came over to Minnie and held out her fist. Minnie smiled and pressed her knuckles against her sister's. Together, Minnie whispered to her. Gigi offered to help Grandmother Johnson in the kitchen while Mama went upstairs with Minnie and Kira to pack their things. Daddy took Banjo for a walk. Minnie asked Mama if she could run next door to say goodbye to Miss Lerner. Of course, but quickly, it's getting late. Minnie slipped out the front door and across the yard. She climbed her front steps. The cat Billie Holiday met her in greeting. Hi, kitty. The nail was still there on the door. Miss Laverna had hung a beautiful wreath of dried lavender from it. Minnie stood and knocked. A few minutes later, Miss Laverna opened the door. She was wearing plain clothes this time. T-shirt, tan pants, not the fancy lavender jacket from the pageant or African printed gown. Hello, I've been thinking about you. You just did a wonderful job tonight. Come in, come in. Well, I can't stay. I just came to say goodbye and to thank you. Whatever for, child? For showing me how to be myself. Miss Laverna's eyes twinkled. I've got something for you. She walked to the cabinet in her living room and took Sophie, the doll, down and pulled another wisdom doll out of the drawer. She came back and held out the doll. Something to remember me by. Minnie took the doll in her hands and stroked the wrinkled brown face. I'd never forget you, with or without this. Well then, may she always remind you the things that are not always what they appear. She smiled and held out another doll. This is for your grandmother. Tell her name is Akila, Arabic for wise, bright, or smart. Just like my neighbor, your grandmother. Miss Laverna? Yes, child? I know now. What do you know? I know what fits my soul. Miss Laverna waited. Well, I'm a Minnie's voice, sorry. I'm a mixture of black and white, Mama and Daddy, and all the people who came before me. Even if Kira decides she feels differently about herself, we'll always be sisters. Miss Laverna smiled a big smile, wrapped her arms around Minnie, and hugged her. That's right, baby. No matter what, you and Kira will always be sisters. I'll see you next time, Minnie said. I'll see you too. Minnie started to pull away, but Miss Laverna held her by the shoulders. She looked into her eyes. You make sure to see yourself, Minerva, goddess of wisdom. See yourself rightly, Minerva. You hear? Yes, ma'am, Minnie said, thinking the name in that sentence suddenly didn't sound so bad. Chapter 34. When they were ready to leave the house, Minnie held out the wisdom doll of Grandmother Johnson, who had changed into slacks and a blouse. This is from Dr. Oliphant. Her eyebrows lifted. She makes them to sell at local shops and gives them to friends. Her name is Akila, which means wise, bright, or smart, like she said, you were. She took the doll slowly. Grandmother Johnson's remained tight, but her eyes widened. She sniffed and pulled herself a little straighter. Thank you. She walked to the fireplace and set the doll on the mantel, right next to the vase of pink roses sitting up. Daddy said goodbye first. He gave Grandmother Johnson a peck on the cheek, and then Gigi came forward, holding Banjo. She clutched Grandmother Johnson's arm. Come on back and visit us soon, Minerva. I'll treat you a massage at my favorite spa in Port Townsend. Banjo stretched his neck and planted a juicy kiss right on Grandmother's chin. Lick! Grandmother Johnson yelled and jumped back as if she had stepped on a tack. She grabbed the disinfectant by the door and sprayed it at the dog. Minnie giggled. Kira laughed. Mama worked very hard to hide her smile. Whoops, Gigi said. She gotcha. But believe me, he doesn't kiss anyone. By any chance, do you wear Marla Ray cosmetics? I'm going to send you a jar. You'll love it. Don't be a stranger now, you hear, Minerva? Goodbye, Mama. Mama hugged her mother. You going to be all right? I'll survive. Mama backed away and Minnie and Kira stepped up. Their grandmothers hugged each of them tightly. Real hugs, not awkward ones with too much space between their bodies. At the motel, Minnie and Kira convinced their parents to let them go in the pool since the night air was still warm and humid. They splashed around, cooling off after that long day. Kira didn't wear a swim cap. She wanted her hair to curl up again. Minnie squatted underwater and Kira climbed on. A shoulder stand was much easier in a pool. They shot from the water and Kira did a black flip, just like in the days from Mama's womb. And Mama and Gigi clapped. Daddy looked up from Around the World in 80 Days, his book he was reading, and he whistled. Minnie felt for the pendant around her neck to make sure it was still there. Mama had given her and Kira matching necklaces for doing her proud in the Miss Black Pearl Preteen National Achievement Program. The charm she had given them was a Chinese character that meant change. The character was made up of sun and a moon on the bottom and sun on top. Some sisters might fight to be the one on top, but Minnie would always be happy to be the understander. Minnie knew this didn't make her less important or different. She was the one whose shoulders provided support. The one Kira could count on to be there. And when push came to shove, Minnie knew too that she could always count on Kira to be there for her as well. Minnie clasped her sister's hands in the water. They intertwined their fingers and circled round and round, sun and moon. Pearls of different shades. Two halves of the same heart. Well, thank you for sharing the other half of my heart with me. It's just been a lovely book. No analysis. Let's just let that be. All right. I'll talk to you guys soon.